Hey everybody, it's November 1st, 2025, and I want to provide y'all an update on the AMD Ryzen 7 5700G processor upgrade on the Tower Lux. So, this is my second processor. The last one, as you might recall, worked for like 5 minutes and then quit working. So, I did a replacement through Amazon. I dropped off the previous one to have sent off, and they sent me this replacement today. The only thing I've done thus far was open the package, pulled the CPU out, which was in the little tray which I have sitting on the other side of the computer. But this was sealed, brand new, sealed in the box. And I want y'all to have a look here. Do you see what I see? Bent pins. Yes, on a brand new processor. Now, I'm highly certain, although I can't rule out the possibility of this being AMD's fault, I think it's more on Amazon. And I'll explain why here in just a sec once the camera decides to refocus. But yeah, it looks like just those two are bent, and I should be able to straighten those back out. But the rest of this chip looks okay. I'm using the camera just to examine it because I can zoom in and get a better view in just my eyes alone. But yeah, those two pins, they look, yeah, they are definitely bent. So, let me go ahead and bend those back real quick. Okay, but I figured I would roll the camera for this because I've never done such a tutorial like this ever before. But we have our processor, we have it sitting face down or lid side down on the table here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a razor blade, brand new razor blade, because we know that a razor blade has a good flat surface on it. And of course, be careful handling your razor blade, you don't want to get cut. And of course, the manufacturer of this razor blade wraps the razor blade in cardboard just to ensure you have a higher chance of getting cut while trying to get it prepped and ready to go. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to look carefully at our processor. Since this is an edge section where the pins are bent, this will be easier to do. So I'm going to carefully set the razor blade up against the edge. And we'll carefully straighten these pins. Take your time with it. Use very little force. You don't want to use a lot of force because, number one, you could break the pins, or number two, you could slip and end up damaging way more pins, possibly rendering the CPU ruined. Again, patience is key here. And I see one pin is kind of going a different direction. So I want to carefully go in here, try to angle it back the correct direction. We're looking much better now. And I'm sorry not getting this on camera the best. However, as you may understand, my priority is this close to $200 processor. And of course, it's important that if your vision is subpar, that you use a good set of glasses or a magnifying glass when doing this procedure. I can still see a slight amount of bending in those pins, so I'm going to keep going at it with the razor. Again, patience. Okay, it looks like we are just about there. Now I'm going to take the razor blade on the opposite side. Very carefully Rest it into place just to make sure they're straight on both edges. One more time on this side here. Alright, so from what I was able to tell, I did not see any other pins that were bent. I don't see any other pins that are damaged. So now I'm going to attempt to install this into the socket. Now it's very important. Now this is, you always want to do this when you install an AMD CPU or any older CPU that has pins on it instead of the pads. You do not want to force the CPU into the socket. You want to, matter of fact, usually under its own weight it should just fall right into the socket. Now of course, if you're installing it with a system that's vertically oriented, again, no force. You should not have to force it in, because when you're forcing in, chances are likely you are bending pins. So that being said, I'm going to attempt to install this. Okay, good news. The processor went right into the socket and I was able to lock the socket down, so it looks like we are good to go there. Okay everybody, so we have now officially upgraded this system. Finally, after that whole ordeal with the first processor arriving and being defective, and with that second one arriving with bent pins, I'm telling you, it's been crazy. But here we are. We now have the Ryzen 7 5700G APU installed, and it did require a little bit of work. Let's just say I had to reinstall Windows on this thing, because once I swapped everything out, Windows, it would briefly spin at the loading animation, the Windows 11 loading animation, and then it would blue screen with inaccessible boot device. And I was like, you know what? This installation already was getting a bit sluggish. It's been, geez, several years since I had touched the Windows 11 installation on this thing. So I was like, you know what, screw it. I'll just go ahead, back up the stuff off of the NVMe drive and wipe and reinstall. So that's what I did. So now we have Windows 11 Pro 25H2 on the Mid-Tower Lux, which now finally meets the Microsoft Elite Class system requirements for Windows 11. Yes, with that Ryzen 7 5700G APU, this machine has a new enough processor to meet Microsoft's ridiculous inflated system requirements for Windows 11. The system requirements that are higher than their server operating system. Windows Server 2025? Yeah, believe it or not. But anyways, this is looking at CPU-Z, and for example, we go to graphics. You can see now we have two GPUs. We have, of course, the Radeon RX 550, and we have the Radeon Vega graphics. That's part of the Ryzen 5 5700G. Now you may ask, okay, what exactly is an advantage of having these two GPUs? I mean, yes, the Ryzen 7 5700G does share some memory with the system. I have it set to 4 GB. That's the same as the PortaCube system at my workplace. It has the Ryzen 5 5600G. And it's funny, it can be argued that the Vega graphics on these Ryzen APUs is nearly on par with that of the RX 550. However, I have found that when you, of course, boost the memory share on this APU up to 4 gigs of video memory, it is actually quite a bit faster at exporting videos and just working with videos. Now, gaming can be a different story, because, I mean, gaming, discrete GPUs do have more advantages with gaming, but yeah, I mean, from my experience, the Ryzen APU graphics does a little better than the RX 550. But okay, so what's the advantage of having both at the same time? Well, what you can do is you can actually select your GPU that you want to use for a given application. Let's say you have multiple video editing programs running simultaneously. You have one exporting and you're doing something else in the other. You can have one set to use, for example, the RX 550 graphics card, and you can have the other one set to use the Radeon Vega graphics that's part of the Ryzen APU. So you can have two different GPUs going at the same time doing different things, sharing the workload. So there's a bit of an advantage there. And honestly, for my needs, really just the graphics that's built into the Ryzen APU is sufficient for my needs. But the thing is, I would have upgraded the Metal Lux with a discrete graphics card and a new CPU, but the prices of discrete graphics cards is still insane. It's ridiculous. So anyways, to wrap up this video, I'm going to talk about one more thing that's quite important here. So this here, of course, is the box my new processor came in. Typical retail CPU in a box from AMD. Comes with the heatsink fan, which I did not use for this because, of course, I got that massive cooler in the Metal Lux that I put together kind of recently. But yes, you had this right here. If I can get it open. So inside here you have, of course, the heatsink fan in its own box. You had this little booklet here with documentation, and of course you have the processor and the sticker. Now, of course, this processor is the old one out of Metal Lux. I stuck it back in here, but just for example, I'll stick it in here. Now, of course, most of my viewers here know how an AMD CPU is packaged, but basically it's what you have right here. You have this. There's not hardly any padding at all on this. That's because this is not intended to be shipped without any sort of protection. But Amazon, in their infinite wisdom, this is what they shipped this product in. Now, of course, this little bubble mailer is not intended to really provide a whole lot of protection. It's better suited for cheap items, shipping cheap items on Amazon. Stuff that's not very fragile. But when you're dealing with computer electronics that are quite fragile, no, Amazon, no, this is not how you do it, because this is, again, not going to provide much protection when the package gets thrown around in the back of someone's car or in the back of the truck or whatever. I mean, I should note that this was delivered by an Amazon driver driving a personal vehicle, so there's no telling how often this might have got thrown around in the back seat before they ride to my address. But yeah, Amazon, you got to step up your game with your packaging. Come on, at least do better than Newegg. I mean, that's not asking a whole lot now. Just do a little better than Newegg at least. Pad these things a little better. Ship it in a cardboard box, not in this. Like, for real, come on. Getting a CPU brand new in the box with bent pins is unacceptable. Thankfully, I was able to rescue this one. Thankfully, I only had a couple of bent pins, and I was able to rescue it with a razor blade. But yeah, it could have been a whole lot worse. And in my situation, with this one already being my number 2 from Amazon, I mean, the first one was defective. I mean, if I was to have to return a second one to Amazon, they would start getting suspicious. I mean, yeah, I do not want to end up in that situation. Now, granted, I have ordered CPUs from Amazon quite a few times over the years. Now, of course, I don't turn out a whole lot of systems. I don't build a whole lot of systems, but I have built a good handful of systems, and I have ordered motherboards and processors and stuff on Amazon. And typically, when you order more stuff like that, they tend to ship it in a freaking box. But when you order just a CPU by itself, this is what they send it in. Come on, Amazon, you gotta do better. Another thing, Amazon, stop putting your stupid product labels over the CPU information label here. Because believe it or not, this label actually has some important information on it. Now, this one here, they only cover like the bottom portion, but the first one, this sticker was like well up inside here. Yeah, you couldn't hardly see any of its information. Again, Amazon, you got to do better. You got to do better, seriously. But anyways, thankfully this is done and over with. The mid-tower lux has been upgraded to the Ryzen 7 5700G APU, which is a whole lot faster than what I had. Now, as far as this Ryzen 7 1700X, there's a chance I might end up putting it on the queue here Plexi. Who knows? I haven't quite made that decision just yet. I'd have to purchase a motherboard for it. But yeah, I would like to reuse this. But then again, part of me says get another Ryzen APU for the Plexi. I don't know. But yeah, anyways, that wraps it up for this crazy dilemma. Anyways, it's done. We're good to go. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.